Right, ready. Yud Beit Aleph. A ring of person is a tummy, but the ring of an animal or utensils and all the types of rings are tahor. A beam for hours is tahor, but a beam for prisoners is tahor. I'm sorry. A beam for hours is tummy, and a beam for prisoners is tahor. A collar is tummy. A chain that is locking device is tummy, but one made for tying is tahor. The chain of merchants is tummy, but a chain of householders is tahor. Rabbi Yossi says when it is so when it contains only one link. When it contains of two links, it is a kazon. If it is attached at the end, it is tummy. The beam of a comb is balance is tummy on account of its hooks, and the beam of the balance scale is householders. If it has hooks, is tummy. Hooks on the poles of porters are tahor, but hooks on the poles of peddlers are tummy. Rabbi Huda says with regard to the hooks of peddlers, that which are in front of him is tummy, but that which is behind him is tahor. And the hooks of a dargesh are tummy, but the hooks of bedpoles are tahor. Hook of a test is tummy, but the hook of a fish trap is tahor. The hook of a table is tummy, but the hook of a wooden candelabra is tahor. General rule is that anything attached to that which is tummy is itself tummy, and anything attached to that which is tahor is in itself tahor. And regarding all of these hooks, each one of them has its own tahor. Regarding the metal cover of tani belonging to a householder, Rabbi says it's tummy, but the sages rule tahor. But the metal cover of a tani that belongs to physicians is tummy. Tummy. The core of a cabinet that belongs to household is tahor, but the core of a cabinet that belongs to physicians is tummy, and tongues are tummy, but barakin are tahor. This aqua of an olive press is tummy, but the hook in the wall is tahor. Okay, you're on.
Yeah, well done. Okay. All right, Masmer Hagara Tame. So that's a blacksmith's bar. Okay. So that bar over there, that you see in the diagram is that thing that he can smash things on.
Right.
Okay. Right. So, and that is part of the very usable kli over there. B'shel even hashaos tahor. But the spike of a sundial is tahor. Why is that? Because that's set. Well, it's set into the ground. A sundial, right, by definition, almost is set into the ground and never moves, because if it moves, then it's not going to tell the time right.
Okay.
Okay. And Rabbi Tzadok was matame. He says that they are according to Rabbi Tzadok, the pins of the sundial are susceptible to tumah, but even though they're attached to us. Oh, he says the article is saying is because it's a stone utensil. That's interesting. Now, how curious. I actually prepared using Kahati last night, and I think that was talking about it being attached to the ground. That would seem to be the most obvious thing. But the article is saying the reason is because it's attached to a stone vessel. And of course, stone vessels are impervious to tumah.
Okay.
I don't know why we even got there, because I would have said that it's attached to the ground.
Because, yeah, this says that
says that since the primary purpose is to show the time, then the pins which show the time of day are the primary component of the sundial and not the stone.
This says that a weaver's rod is a long metal rod that a weaver would insert into.
I haven't got to the weaver's rod yet. I was just looking at the sundial.
Oh, okay, all right. You went back. Okay.
Okay, that's a very, very curious thing that they don't even mention the possibility that the reason why it's tahor is because it's set in the ground. Okay, fine. Okay, let's move on. Masmer Hagardi. So the weaver's rod. Okay, that is tame. You can see the diagram over there. The rod is in the middle of the shuttle.
Right.
Okay. Why is that tame? Because although it's part of the same utensil as the wooden spool, which lacks a receptacle, it's considered the primary component of the utensil. Okay. Aron Shalgarosos, that's the chest of bean grinders. Okay, what is that? It's a wooden chest used by professional bean grinders to store the ground beans. Since the beans are heavy, the chest was constructed with thick walls and therefore was particularly heavy and difficult to move. Okay. So Rabbi Tzadok says it's tamei, but Chachamim say it's tahor. Okay, what's the machlokes? The sages maintain it's not susceptible to tumah because it's not designed to be transportable. Okay. Rabbi Tzadok, on the other hand, contends that since the chest is occasionally moved when it needs to be repaired, it's not classified as a wooden utensil that is designed to remain stationary. Okay. If its wagon was made of metal, however, then it is tame. What's the wagon over here? It is a special wagon that was used to transport that wooden chest of bean grinders, and this wagon has no it's no receptacles. So if it's made of wood, it would not be susceptible to tumah. Okay, but if it's made of metal, it is susceptible to tumah. So you might have thought that since the purpose of the wagon is to transport the chest, it's viewed as a subsidiary component. If so, just as the chest itself is not susceptible to tumah, so to the wagon to use to transport it is not, because the primary component, in this case the chest, defines the tumah susceptibility status of the utensil as a whole. But our Mishnah teaches that it's not so. Okay. Next up, Mishnah Hey, Masmer. A nail she's kino lios poseach v'noel bo. Okay, so you took a nail and you put it into the side of the door and bent it so that it can act as a doorstop. So you can swivel it open and closed, as is commonly done on toilet stalls when the lock breaks. Okay. Masmer she's kino lios poseach v'noel bo. That is tame. Okay, this is that is just as good as a lock, and that nail that used to be tahor. Remember, nails start out being tahor, but they hasoy lishmira tahor, but one that is made for surveillance. Now, what does that mean? Mishnah refers to a nail that is designated for the purpose of ascertaining whether or not someone entered a certain room. The nail would be placed by the door of the room, and if it was found in a different position from that in which it was originally placed, it would be apparent that someone had entered the room.
Yeah.
Okay, this nail is impervious to tumah because it doesn't perform a significant function. It's not actually being a kli. It's just you could do that with a hair as well, or okay. So masmer shehiskino lios poseach bois achavis. Now, if one fixed up a nail and so that it could be used to open a barrel. Rabbi Kiva matami v'chachamim matarin ad sheyitzarafenu. Rabbi Kiva says this is good enough. You've done it. You've made it into something that could be. It's just been sharpened so that you could puncture the barrel and take out the wine, or filed it down so that it can be wedged between the barrel and the piping stopper and force out the stopper. So Rabbi Kiva says, okay, that's a kli. That's a good kli. Chachamim say no. It needs to be hardened. Okay, it can be hardened by heating it at fire. So a nail used to open a barrel must be stronger than other nails, so it won't break against the barrel. Or since it must be much thinner than other nails that can be inserted, if it's not strengthened, it'll snap when one tries to force out the stopper with it. So Chazal said, since the nail is not suitable for its intended purpose before it's made stronger, it's not considered a functional utensil until then, and is therefore not susceptible to tumah. Masmer shel shulchani, the bar of a money changer. Lovely diagram over here. Okay, so he's got his little window, like Montrose change, right? And he opens up the window and it becomes his counter, and there's a bar over there to hold it up. So that bar is tahor. To me, if I look at that diagram, I say it's because it's connected to the ground.
Yeah.
But the commentary over here says, okay, it is intended to be, it is intended, right, because it's attached to the ground. There we go. Okay, so I got that one right. The Rabbi Tzadok nonetheless says it's tameh. Why? He says that this is susceptible to tumah because the money changer will occasionally remove it from the column or his counter and use it to open and close the lock on the door of his shop. So since it's not designed exclusively to be attached to the ground, it is susceptible to tumah. So now the Mishnah sums up. So there were three things that Rabbi Tzadok said were tameh, and Chachamim were matahir. And in general, this is an interesting thing. It's kind of like a Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, because in general, Rabbi Tzadok ruled more leniently, but these three things he was more machmir. Okay, masmer shel shulchani, as we just saw, Aaron shall garosos, as we just saw, the chest of the bean grind is a masmer shall even showers, as we just saw in this Mishnah. Rabbi Tzadok Matzami v'chachamim matarin. All these cases. So these are actually brought. It's also and that was brought in Eidos, and the next one is also brought in Eidos. Once we're talking about things that one sage rules Tameh and everyone else rules Tahor. So here is Rabban Gamliel in Mishnah Vav. There were 4 things that Rabban Gamliel said were Tameh and the Chachamim were Matar. The Kisoi Teni, the metal cover of a teni. We saw that case in Mishnah Gimel. Okay, if it's Shamateches Shal Bale Batim Utiloi Hamagredos Golme Klemataichos. So what else was there? There was the Tiloi, the hanger of strigils. Okay, what's a strigil? Okay, a strigil is a metal instrument that bathers use to scrub their feet and thighs, according to Rambam. These instruments would be hung on metal hooks attached to the bathhouse wall for the use of the bathers. The hanger of the strigils, that is the subject of dispute. These are the hooks from which the strigils are hung. Although hooks that are designed to be attached to the wall of the house are normally not susceptible to tumah, Rabban Gamliel maintains that the hooks from which the strigils are hung are susceptible because only something that is intended to be permanently attached to the wall is impervious to tumah, and these hooks are sometimes removed from the place where they're attached and inserted in a different place on the wall. Chazal say that since the hooks are only rarely moved from place to place, they're considered to be intended to be permanently attached and are therefore tahor.
We had strigils before in a previous Mishnah. Right, but we did. I don't know if it was that the hooks that were hung on the pillars for the
that was a similar case there. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and the golme klematechos. Okay, an unfinished metal utensil. Okay, so an unfinished metal utensil. So they've hollowed it out, and you've made it into the right shape for a kli, but it hasn't been finished and fired. Okay, so they haven't been filed down, planed, or hammered into their final shapes, or are still missing a non-essential component like a rim or a handle. So according to Chazal, these Keilim do not become susceptible to tumah until their manufacturing process is completed down to the last detail. Rabban Gamliel, on the other hand, maintains that metal utensils are susceptible to tumah even if they lack certain finishing touches, since they can be and often are used for their intended function in their unfinished state. Okay. And a tray that's split in 2. Okay, the tray that's split in 2 is the final one. Rabban Gamliel is referring to a rimmed earthenware tray that broke into 2 equal pieces. Before the tray broke, it definitely was susceptible because its rim made it into a kli.
right.
Skeptical. Okay.
You can push it away if you want.
As we've seen in Mishnah 5:7. In the case of an earthenware oven, although a tamei earthenware utensil becomes purified of its tumah when it breaks, if it breaks into 2 pieces, only the smaller piece is purified. But the larger piece, which comprises the majority of the oven, remains tamei. Okay, that's talking about an oven. Same is true regarding to susceptibility to tumah. Only the smaller piece loses its susceptibility to tumah as the shard of a utensil, but the larger piece. Sorry about the background entertainment.
Okay.
The larger piece remains susceptible, as our Mishnah will soon state. Question arises when the utensil breaks into 2 equal pieces, as in our Mishnah's case. In theory, both pieces should not be susceptible to tumah, since neither comprises the majority of the utensil. However, Rabban Gamliel maintains that in practice both are susceptible. That's because, in his opinion, it is impossible for them to be truly identical. Okay, you can't make it perfect with the calipers and make it exactly half-half. Rather, one must be larger than the other, even though they appear to be the same size. But since we can't identify the larger piece, we must rule stringently and regard each piece as the larger one. Okay. So back into Umodim Chachamim leRabban Gamliel b'tavla shenechleka l'shnayim. The Chachamim agree that in the case of a tray that splits into 2 pieces, one large and one small, that the large one is tamei and the small one is tahor. Okay, let's do whatever
Okay,
we can. I need to go.
Said, hey, regarding shards of earthenware that were used for tummy beverages and they fell into the airspace of an oven. If the oven was heated, the oven is tummy, but the beverages will eventually emerge. And similarly with new mark. But in the case of old mark, the oven is tahor, and if it is known that beverage comes out of it, even after 3 years, the oven becomes tummy. regarding mark and grapeskins that were made in condition of tahara, and tamim walked on them. Afterward beverages emerged from them, they are tahara, but if they originally made in conditions of tahara. Regarding a spindle that swallowed its hooks, an ox guard that swallowed its nail, or a brick that swallowed a ring, or they are tahara. But if they enter a tent containing a corpse, they become tameh. If a zav moves them, they become tameh. If they fell into the airspace of an tahara oven, they were rendered to tameh. And if a loaf of truma touched them, it is tahor. Regarding a sedger that was placed over the mouth of an oven surrounded by a sealed oven, if a crack developed between the oven and the sedger, its measure is with the width of the mouth of an ox guard that cannot be inserted. The Yehuda says if it can enter, and the sedger developed a crack, the measure in the width of the mouth of an ox guard that can enter. Reb Yehuda says even if it cannot enter. If the crack in the sedger was rounded, we do not view it as being straight. Rather, its measure is the width of an ox guard that can enter. Okay, midos.
Okay, yeah. Next up on to midos.
Midos, Rav Dollar Bet. The great had two minor doorways, one in the north and one in the south. The one to the south, no man ever entered through it. The reason this is explained by the prophet Ezekiel, in that Hashem has said to me, this gate shall be closed, it shall not be opened. The man may not come through it, because Hashem, the God of Israel, comes through it. It shall be closed. He took the three and opened the minor doorway and entered the cell. From the cell, he went to the Hekel. Judah says he would walk north, 15 in the south, 8 in the west, and those in the north and none in the south, 5 cells on top of 5 and 5 on top of them. And those in the west, 3 cells on top of 3 and 3 on top of them. Each cell had 3 openings, one to the cell on the right, one to the cell on the left, and one to the cell above it. But in the cell in the northeast corner were 5 openings, one to the cell on the right, one to the cell above, one on the winding ramp, and one on the minor doorway, and one to the Hekel. The cells at the bottom level were 5 amos wide, and with the ledge was 6. The cells in the middle was 6 amos, and with the ledge 7. The cells at the top were 7 with the width. As stated, the lower cell 5 amos was its width, the middle one 6 was its width, and the third one even 7 amos was on its width. Okay. Hey, the winding ramp ascended to the northeast corner.
No, we're on to Bechoros.
So now we're going to go on to the next, which is Bechoros. Dalet. No, I'm sorry, Chet. If one suspended or suspected of saddle year violations, we may not purchase from him flax, even comb, though we may purchase from him thread or braided ropes. If one is suspended of selling truma as ordinary produce, we may not purchase from him even water or salt. Either of the words of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Simon says whatever has a connection to truma and ma'aser, we may not purchase from him. One who is suspected of sabbatical year violations is not suspected of transgressing the laws of ma'aser. One who is suspected of ma'aser violations is not suspected of sabbatical violations. One who is suspected of both these violations is suspected of transgressing the laws of Tahara, and in some cases, one is suspected of Tahara violations is not suspected of violating this one or that one. This is the rule. Whoever is suspected of something may neither judge nor testify concerning it. Okay, and we are on to Sanhedrin. Okay, Sanhedrin is Dalet. Capital cases are judged by 23. The animal which commits an act of bestiality or its recipient is judged by 23, as it says, and you shall kill the woman and the animal. And it says in the animal you shall kill, an ox which is to be stoned is judged by 23. 23. And it says the ox shall be stoned, and also its owner shall be put to death. In the same manner as the owner is put to death, the ox is put to death. The wolf, the lion, the beast, the leopard, and the bardellos and the snake are sentenced to death by 23. Rav Eliezer says whoever is first to kill acquires merit. Rav Akiva says their death is by 23. A tribe of false prophet and a Kohen Gadol may not be judged except by the court of 71, and this discretionary law may not be waived without the approval of the court of 71. Additions to the city and additions to the court that may be made only with the court of 71. Sanhedrin for the tribes may be appointed only by the court of 71. An apostate town may be so designated only by the court of 71. They cannot designate an apostate town on the board of not 3 nor more than we designate more than 1 or 2. The great Sanhedrin was composed of 71 judges and a lesser one of 23. From where do we know that the great one was 71? Because it says, gathered me 70 men from the evils of Israel, and Moses presided over them. Hence 71. Rabbi Yehuda says 70, and from where do we know that the lesser one is comprised of 23? Because it says, and the congregation shall judge, and the congregation shall save. The congregation with judges, and the congregation with saves, we shall arrive at 20. And from where do we know that the congregation consists of 10? Because it says, until when this evil congregation, which excludes Yeshua and Keilim. And from where do we know to include another 3? For the implication of that which it says, do not follow majority to convict. I may infer that if I should have followed them to exonerate. If so, why does it say according to the majority that matters? Shall be decided. This teaches that the decision to convict is unlike the decision to exonerate. The decision to exonerate turns on the vote of one, while the decision on to convict must be turned on the vote of two. Since no court may consist of an even number, we must add another to a total of 23. How many must be in a town to warrant a Sanhedrin? 120. Rabbi Kevin says 230, corresponding to the offices of the tens.
Okay.
The Cohen Gadol may judge and be judged.
Done.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Did I finish or you can't do anymore?
Let's do Yoma.
Did I finish that though?
Yes, you did.
I did. Okay. Let's go down to this. Okay. Yoma, hey. A pregnant woman.
Yoma Bav. Ches Vav.
Yes, well, okay, yeah, hey. Okay. If a pregnant woman smelled food or drink and requested it, they feed her until she recovers.
No, not hey, Vav.
Well, I'm sorry. If one was received with bones, they feed him, but even forbidden foods until his vision is restored. If one was bitten by a mad dog, they may not feed him as live live alone, but may Master Ben Kasher permits it. The Master Ben Kasher also said if one has an animal to his throat, they may drop medicine into his mouth on the Sabbath because there may be a danger to life, and every possible danger to life supersedes the Sabbath. If a building collapsed on someone on the Sabbath and it is uncertain whether he is there or not, it is uncertain whether he is alive or dead, and it is uncertain whether he is a heathen or Jew, one must clear the heap of debris on him. If they found him alive, they must clear the rest of the debris for him, and if he is found dead, they leave him there. A sin offering and a guilt offering for definite sin provide atonement. Death or Yom Kippur provides atonement together with repentance. However, repentance alone atones for lesser than this transgressions of positive commandments and negative commandments. But for the graven sins, there suspends punishment until Yom Kippur comes and puts out atonement.
Okay, yes. Done.
That's it.
Done. Yep.
And we have
Let's quickly do Oktin.
and Vav. Regarding undeveloped food and unripe fruit, Red Kiva rules them susceptible to becoming tummy with the Tumas Oakland. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says they are susceptible only when they reach the filting word, I think, when it reads the tithing stage. Regarding hard olives and grapes, when Shimon raised them susceptible to becoming tummy, but Beis Hillel says tahor. Regarding family, Beis Shammai rules the tahor, Beis Hillel says tummy, and so too regarding tithes. Head of palm is like wood for all matters except that it may be purchased with Ma'aser Sheni money, and immature dates are food, and they are exempt from tithes. From when do the fish contact Truma? Oakland, or Shammai says from when they are caught, Beis Hillel says from when they die. Beis Kiva says if they are liable to live. Regarding a branch of a fig tree that was sawn up but is attached by its peel, Rabbi Yehuda rules a tahor, but in something room it can only if it can live. And grain that was uprooted but is attached by even a small root is tahor. Okay.
Okay, and that's it.
Okay, great. You are leaving Motzei Shabbos, and you won't be back until.
So I'll be in touch with you on Sunday about time for sure. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Have a great trip, a safe trip.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.